You are tuned into the Demetrius K. Samuel podcast. Come on, Sammy. Let's go.
You are tuned into Beyond the Pulpit. It's the DK Samuel podcast. You are tuned into Beyond the Pulpit. It's the DK Samuel podcast.
Well, welcome back to Beyond the Pulpit with your host, Demetrius K. Samuel Sr. I'm here with the group that I call the fellas. So we're going to continue our conversation from the last episode. And today we'll finalize that conversation. Thank you for joining us, and we pray that you will have a good carryaway from the conversation today. But before we jump in, I'm going to ask one of our brothers to lead us in a word of prayer. Let's pray.
Father in heaven, first of all, we want to thank you for all things, God. Everything that you have provided up until this very point, God. We're so grateful, God, for your mercy and for your favor that is upon us, God. And as we continue to go into this endeavor, God, we pray that this discussion will bring light and life to those that will hear this podcast or will hear this conversation. God, we do everything that we do, God, we do for your glory's sake. And Father, we ask that you be pleased, God, with the conversation, God, and the questions and all of those things, God. And most of all, God, be pleased with our lives as we surrender, as we give service unto you, God. We turn our lives over to you, that you may do with us as you will. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Thank you. We're continuing the conversation about assets and liabilities. We ended last talk with the difference between how you define what an asset is, what a liability is, as it relates to working in ministry in particular. Today, I want to piggyback off of that, going back to talking about loyalty, and loyalty being blind, or as some would say, it really isn't blind. Loyalty should be something that's visible, that we can see and will know, not only in others, but in ourselves. And so people throw that word around a lot. It's bounced around. In fact, I would say I probably don't hear it as much as I used to. In younger years, we don't hear much about loyalty and faithfulness, commitment. People these days, in my opinion, seem to be less vocal about it, but at the same time, there's still that desire for loyalty. Uh, People are looking for that, especially when it comes to friends. In your opinion, what do you think a healthy loyalty looks like? Anybody can jump in. Mm-hmm.
We in my mind, you had used the word blind, and that's really what, when you look at somebody and you're loyal to them, those things, commitment, faithful, they all fall into that category of loyalty. Because I remember the movie Malcolm X, when he says that if the leader had been convicted of a crime, he would have given himself and tried to prove that he did that.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the Secret Service that protect either the presidents now and their predecessors, it's the same thing. They will give their life to protect them. Loyalty is, no matter what I see, my thing is to make sure, especially in the pastor's aspect, I have to make sure that they don't see it. I have
Very,
to,
I mean,
the parishioners or the people, you know, and we have to cover those that we're, you know, because sometimes they could see something and it seemed wrong. Am I making, you know, you could see something and you got the wrong perception of it. And so now I gotta, if it comes to me, then I'm like, hey, no, that's not, you know, that's not how that went down, such and such and such. Loyalty is just blind obedience, blinded. I'm going to cover this person, especially when you know the person. You know, I know you're human. I know people are going to get on your nerves. I know people are going to do dumb stuff. You have a right to react. But as long as it's not an occasional thing and it's not always, you know, it doesn't pass a thing where you're hurting anybody. I have to protect. I'm going to protect you, and that's what I relate. That's what true relationships about. When you're married, when you have your friend, the loyalty, you know, that you have to show in that situation, no matter what. We're gonna talk about it in the bedroom. We're gonna talk about it in the pastor's office. We're gonna talk about it, but right now, nobody need to know about that. I need to cover that.
Yeah, I when I think about loyalty, I think about the first thing that comes to my mind. Of course, he already said commitment and those things, but the first thing that really comes to my mind, I believe that loyalty is birthed out of relationship. Once I've established a relationship with you, and I understand where you're going, and since we're talking about leaders and spiritual leaders in particular, once I develop a relationship with, first of all, with God, because we're all led by the Word of God and by the Spirit of God. So once I have that relationship solidified, then my loyalty is wrapped up in that as a whole. So when I come into a church, a new church, or when I meet a new leader, or when a new leader is presented before me, then my loyalty is birthed out of my relationship and what out of what God requires of me as being a loyal follower or a loyal believer. So, first of all, my relationship with God has to be solid. And then I have to, like I said, there may be times, now we're saying, when we say cover, we're not saying cover up.
Right, right, right.
We're not
Yes,
saying make
yes,
excuses for.
yes, yes, yes.
There's a scripture in the Bible that, well, I've been taught, I don't know the scripture in the Bible, let me say, I've been taught that you always sanctify the leader in the eyes of the people. Even outside the church, or even outside the spirit realm of the thing. If you have a leader in any capacity, I've never been in armed services, but I've known a lot of my brothers. I got a lot of friends that have been in the armed services, and they, once your leader gives you an order, you're obligated to follow that order if you want to remain in that particular armed service, be it Navy, Army, Marines, whatever. And the higher up you go, the more responsibility you have, and the more loyal you become to the armed service portion of organization. The same thing like with doctors. They have to take what we call the Hippocratic oath and all that. I promise not to. I think that's one of the things I promise not to do no harm. So when you look at loyalty, it stems off a relationship first. So my relationship with my friends or co-workers or whomever I come in contact with has to stem off a relationship. Because without relationship first, there can be no loyalty. In my eyes, there can be no loyalty. Yeah, how can I establish loyalty? How can I be loyal to you if I don't understand you? I don't know where you're going. I don't understand what the movement about. I tell people all the time, whenever you join a church, you need to find, or a church organization, you need to find out all that you can about that church and about that church organization. Shame on us when we join churches just for the sake of joining churches, or because they made us feel good and all of that thing, because that will fade. If you come for the music, you come for the singing, well, they sing good, or even if I come for the preaching, because it makes me feel, that's going to fade. What's going to help me in the midnight hour, in that time when I'm troubled? What do I have to lean on? So I think relationship first, and then out of that stems loyalty.
Right, right.
good. Both of y'all have said relationship, commitment. In today's time, we like to use the term or a few words, being locked in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I think of loyalty, I think of the term, definitely being locked in. And it seems the way you broke it down in regards to, is there levels, spiritual, and then so we're talking natural. So we blend the both. Um, when you are locked in, quote unquote, i.e., with an individual, and you made a point. It's funny, but it's true. The things that we do publicly, we handle those intimate things privately.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll never spill
Mm-hmm.
to the public. That's just how that works. When you are locked in, when you are loyal, when you are committed to, i.e., a person, that's my brother. I hear all the time, man, even, me and some of my close friends, things like that, will say, man, at the end of the day, in the back room, nah, I'm gonna check it. We gonna get it in the back room.
Right.
But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, I'm a ride with you.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if I believe that thing. Like I said, since it's not a cover up.
Right.
What we're dealing with. But when you are completely loyal to a thing, you are completely locked into a thing. I mean, man, you stand with it. You stand with it. Especially when you're dealing with a thing, from a moral and a spiritual standpoint.
Yes.
That's a whole nother level, because it's not the man.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the organization, or you're trying to connect with the church or ministry.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the man. We do a lot of things in ministry today for personality's sake.
Mm-hmm.
In fact,
Yes.
most ministries are driven by personalities, whether it's music, whether it's the preacher, you name it. I mean, this is no secret. But when you pull the cover back and when you just break it down just completely, what's going to be the thing that's going to keep you, like you said, in the midnight hour? What's going to be the thing that's going to separate, what they do over here from what you're getting over here? Or likewise, i.e., in regards to relationships, what's going to be the thing that's going to make me just really tap in with you, or lock in with you versus someone else? So when I think about loyalty, I think about, like I said, just the term of just basically just being locked in. When you're locked in, man, you're committed, man. No matter what, you're not going to waver. We can talk about it later, but when it comes down to it, you're never going to embarrass. Loyalty doesn't embarrass.
Right.
That's good.
It doesn't embarrass. So that's what I say.
And that I like that. Lord, I would never a friend. You and I are close. He can't talk about you to me.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do
I always
that.
tell my friends, I don't talk about friends to friends, and those who know me and those who they know that I'm just like, I wouldn't talk about you to him. I'm not gonna let you talk about and so that's been a standing rule for me for years. Now, direct relationship, you and I, we can talk about our stuff
Right.
to each other,
Right.
but we're not bringing nobody else in.
Right. Right.
That's just not fair.
Right.
That's just not fair.
I have a story. Bishop Anderson Sr., who was a mentor to all of us and a great teacher. I remember one time, trying to make this short, we had a brother here, right here at this church, that I was just offended by, upset with, and just could not work with him. I said, I'm going to go talk to my pastor. I'm going to go talk to Bishop, because this has gotten to, talking about being fed up. I was up here. So I came in, I said, Bishop, can I talk to you? He said, yeah. He said, you need to close the door. I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do. So he closed the door, and he sat back, and he did his signature move. He put his hands like this, started pulling his thumb. What can I do for you? I say, Bishop. And I ran down, I told the guy's name, and I ran down my whole list of stuff and then he sat and he listened, never interrupted me, which I got finished. Mm-hmm. And I said, Bishop, I just can't no more. I didn't. Then he looked at me and he asked me, he said, what's wrong with you, Elder Sims? What's wrong with you that you can't with this fella? And I had to go back and pray about me. How can we, I'm paraphrasing, how can we remove the beam or the mote out of our brother's eye, and yet the beam is on our own eye? So I had to go back and when I went back and I prayed about it and I thought about what he said, what's wrong with you? And believe it or not, as fed up as I was, I found a way to work with that brother. I found a way to work with that brother. Nobody ever knew that was fed. I don't think he ever knew. Uh, but that's one story that always goes back in my mind. Before I get fed up with people, as we say, or get argumentative, I'll go back and check me first. Look at myself in the mirror.
So I think we can agree that loyalty doesn't mean you cannot disagree, or that you may not, that you can't say no. I think we pretty much talked about, or even confront individual or situation. That doesn't make you disloyal to bring it up, especially when you have questions. You know, I would rather ask my questions behind the scenes before we get out, so that we're on the same page and not trying to figure out stuff. You know, it's one thing to have a good game face, and it's another thing. My brother reminds me of, I don't like to be embarrassed.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
let's do this behind it. You already have this information, intel. Don't get me out in front of you surprise. And I'm supposed to go along
Yeah. Yes.
with your stuff. You know, that will cause distrust and even break loyalty, in my opinion. But loyalty needs to be able to survive all of that, survive correction, survive being challenged, disagreeing, saying no sometimes. I heard something some time ago, and it's really stuck with me, and I've said it on a couple of podcasts. Um, uh, Wise men are not always, no, great men are not always wise. And it's important that we have advisors and counselors, a multitude of counselors. There's safety. That's the word. Being great doesn't put you past, doesn't make you infallible.
Yes.
And so having a good support system, having the voice of reason. I don't want people around me, everybody around me thinks the same way I think. That's dull. I mean, and this where's a challenge or opportunity to grow. You know, I don't want to be the sharpest pencil in the box.
Yes.
I heard somebody say just last week, if you're the smartest person in your circle, well, I've heard it before, but I was reminded last week, you're the smartest person in your circle, you're in the wrong circle.
Yep.
If you're the best at everything in your group, flesh would like that because self-aggrandizement, all that pats on the back and make you feel like some. But where's an opportunity to grow? You're already at the ceiling, and the others that you're dealing with trying to come up to where you are. What are you aspiring to? And so I think that's important to. I think it's important to be challenged. You know, a quote that I picked up along the way: "If I can't tell you the truth, I'm not loyal. I'm merely comfortable." And sometimes we're guilty of tolerating people, going along with the flow, rather than really being in covenant relationship.
Being honest.
Yeah, being honest. I had a friend growing up. She used to always say to us, and we a little group that we're all hanging out, teens, and now way past 10 years, but we still every once in a while remind each other, can't be honest, can't be saved. She used to say that all the time. You can't be honest, can't be saved. She usually used that when she was saying something to cut somebody.
Wow.
You know, but can't be honest, can't be saved. You can tell the truth at the wrong time. I learned that. Sometimes you might have to add a little sugar to it. But with lines of demarcation, and let me preface this with what I feel like the lines of demarcation are when it comes to leadership and tiers of leadership. We believe in order and structure and, for lack of a better word, ranks in that. And even with that, being any institution, it's generally a common thing, because even in the secular world, you have president of the company, vice presidents, then you have management and team leaders, all the way down to associates,
CEOs,
everything. Understanding roles and assignments. Now, these assignments come from God. And the Apostle Paul, when he's talking to the church and he tells us about being subject to those who are in authority and those who have the rule over us, I've heard people say things like, you never know when it's going to be your turn to come around. But I think it's better for us to be in the mindset of it may not ever be your turn, or you may not ever be up front, but we're sowing seed. Sowing seed. So I want you to talk to me about some of your experience in growing and developing. And all of you have tenure in ministry, so this is not new. There are things, of course, and along the way that you would have learned and things that were poured into you. What has been your experience in those coming behind you and how you've dealt with them, how you've handled them, how you've poured into them, and what kinds of fruit have you seen from mentoring or coaching or helping somebody else along the way, or even seeing somebody who, like my granddaddy said, going there can't tell been there how to get there, but somebody who's going where you've been and you've been able to recognize that, to see where they are. Another thing my granddad used to say all the time, he said, I know where you are, but you don't know where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense to me until later on when I'm saying it to somebody else. That you can see where they're on it. I mean, just in natural life, at 20 years old, 30 years old, I was still laughing at my grandfather going to public restrooms and stuff and stuff. I'm like, this man, I think he saw a restroom sign and had to go. I'm like, you wasn't thinking about going to it. And I would say quick, I don't use public restrooms. Then the day came, all he said to me was, keep living,
Keep living.
keep living. And it was just so funny to me. Like you said, like, nah, I'm good. I hold it. I don't say that anymore. A man of a certain age, you can say if you want to, you done had a
you sure would.
So having seen those coming behind you, personally, I find it rewarding to be able to pour into somebody else and to help guide. Tell me what your experience has been.
Well, let me jump in because I kind of been waiting on this question. I think, and I'm speaking from a spiritual standpoint and from a church standpoint. I think we celebrate the number one guy too much. Now, let me explain what I'm saying by that. There's a great need for a number two man. Thank God for Bishop Otis Lockett Sr.
One of my favorite.
And there's a great need for a number three man.
Okay.
So when I first came to this church, Bishop Anderson Sr., he had a first administrative assistant and he had a second administrative assistant. A lot of times we celebrate the number one man. We celebrate but the number one man needs help. There's no way a pastor of any church, I don't care how big or how small it may be, can have his hands on everything in the church. Even if he's only got 10 members, there's no way you're going to remember everybody's birthday, everybody's anniversary, everybody's special graduation day, all of that, because you yourself are living
pretty good.
Huh?
Yes.
Yes. There are, in anything there are exceptions. Yeah, you're going to be good at anniversaries, but then something else might slip by.
Yeah.
So you need a good number two man, or a number three man, or even a number four man. We need to celebrate those positions because, in my experience, there's nothing better for me. It's nothing more rewarding for me to somebody to say, and I try to be like this all of my whole life, that people can depend on me. Mm-hmm. If anybody gonna be at church, I know Sam's gonna be there. I like having
on time.
I like having that because that gives me not only responsibility, but that lets me know somebody's watching me.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And I'm pouring into others by being consistent, by being there all the time. Maybe others could say, man, Sam's there all the time. Everybody seems to like him. And the pastor always got him up praying, or doing this or doing that. But That's even a heavyweight. To be the number two man is a great heavyweight. We always look at the number one man, and we should celebrate our pastors. We should applaud them, support them in every means, in every way. But the pastor needs a good number two man. He needs a good number three man, a good number four man, because there are areas in ministry that he cannot all the time touch. But when he can get reports from the number two man, say, Pastor, this came up and I took care of it. I just want you to know what happened. And then he could say, thank you. You know, I'll be praying about that. I'll reach out to them and let them know that I'm concerned and that I heard about it. But I thank you for handling that. Because if your pastor's away, and I'm just using this as a scenario, if your pastor's away during a hospital visit, and then you hear about somebody else dying, that they just passed away suddenly, and you can't call a pastor at the hospital visit because 9 times out of 10, he's probably gonna have his phone muted or whatever. You don't want to interrupt that. He might be praying with that family, praying for that situation or that member. And then you being a good number two man or being part of the ministry, I think that you should go and see about that person and tell them, let them know, I'm going to let Pastor know, but what can I do for you until he gets here or and that takes a lot of weight off of the number one man. I think the number two man could be just as celebrated as the number three, as number one man or number three man, number four man. I think that's needed in every church. And I've been a part of churches, and the Lord has always blessed me to be close to the pastor. I've always been close to all of my pastors. Unfortunately, like some of y'all, I have not had the pleasure of only having one, but God has placed me in different situations for my growth and for my learning. And now I'm able to pour into others that come into the ministry. Especially, I love talking to young people. Here at this church, people tell you, Slim's always talking to the kids. I talk to the kids. I reward the kids. I remember we had a group of kids. I'm not going to name their names that were here. And I was giving out $1. I said, every time you get an A, I'm going to give you $1. Well, there's one group of family, my wife said, you got to take that back. Because I was giving out, every time a report card came out, it was $30 or $40 per child, and then one family had 3 or 4 people. So, but I want to keep my word up because I put it out there. But to me, that was an incentive for them to do better in school. And a lot of parents came back to me and said, since you've been asking about their grades and stuff, they have improved. Because none of them wanted to come back and say, I failed the test, or I didn't get promoted to the next grade, or anything like that. So I find myself, and in doing that, not only pointing to these individuals or pointing to people, other ministers and stuff like that, you're also supporting the pastor and supporting the overall vision of the church.
With that, you're right. Number one, number two, number three, they should be respected. But the thing about it, in those positions, from parishioner on up, you have to respect your position to respect the top. As a parishioner, then we go to usher. However you go, choir member, a choir leader. Now I'm a deacon. Now you have to be content where you are to respect the top position. When you have the mafia, and you see it throughout their years, number two, for some reason or another, gets tired of being number two. Or number three, they get tired of it. So at some point, Gotti gotta go. Somebody gotta go. We can't be that way in church because being a pastor may not be my thing, especially if I'm not called to it. Being an elder may not be my thing. One of the things I always tell people: be content where you are at that time. If it's appointed by God, and we believe it's appointed by God, God will move us when we've shown content. It's no thing like with our finances. I always say, God is not going to give me $1 million 20 years ago because I'm not coming to church.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm going to be on every boat, everything flying, every tropical island, I'm gone.
Yeah.
That was 20 years ago. When you learn to be content in those things that you have, and I know that when I get this, I need to do this. I always tell them at my job at the sheriff's office, one of the things was at one time, looking at being a sergeant, and I was realistic with myself. I can't do what they do because they had been detention officers, or they had been entry level for so long that they understood how to do a sergeant's job. You just can't walk in and correctly, not everybody, and can do a job correctly.
Mhm.
There was a Twilight Zone, that I'm going to shut up. Twilight Zone, I love Twilight Zone episode, where a man had gone to college, he's gotten a degree, and they put him there. There's World War II, and they're fighting, I believe, the Japanese. So he just comes into the battlefield. He's a lieutenant. And he's already, now these men have scoped these people for 3 months. They're in a cave. They're trying to wait them out. He just comes on the scene and just wants to tell them what to do without getting any information, without observing or anything. And what happens is they, in Twilight Zone, something crazy. They switch his position. And now they're ready to give up. And he sees that, listen, we're just ready to give up. We're exhausted. We have had no food. But when he was on the other side, he was ready to go in and kill them. Now he's about to be killed by that very same. We have to be content where we are to get an understanding of what's going on before we even worry about the next position and moving on to the next position. So that's what I tell people all the time. If you're a parishioner, be content being a parishioner. It's great work in being a parishioner, or being a member. Mr. Manson always said, why can't we just be brothers and sisters? Why do we need to be, first thing, hey, sis, how you doing? Oh, I'm evangelist so-and-so. Not to me anymore, because I'm never speaking to you, because that's not how that's me. That's not, because at the end of the day, I'm Mitchell. That's all I'm Mitchell. That's it. So I believe I always try to teach people, be content. Don't worry about moving up forward. God will move you in time when it's your time. I've watched you, and I've never seen you, look at where you are now. And you're still the same person because you respected where you were.
Man, wonderful. For me, just thinking throughout the years of the number of musicians and singers I've had the opportunity to shepherd. Just we're going to speak present day. Like for example, the crew that we have here. These young men, you know, we have intimate conversations. We have ministry conversations. Singers as well. We fellowship outside of church. We fellowship within church. We go out. All the things. So in turn, it builds a level of trust and camaraderie to where we can be in any setting, or we can deal with anything, and that there is no pressure. So in return, by me being in a position to quote unquote shepherd them, on the flip side, I get a chance to see them grow. They tell me about their own experiences. They tell me about their own scenarios.
Yes.
Why? Because they had an opportunity to be in covenant with me and to work with me and to see various aspects, how I handled this, how I made the decision for this.
Yes.
When this came up, what did I decide to do in this point? So when it comes to the building of the leadership and the level of the people that you're leading, to see the results of those people growing is ultimately, what any leader or what any shepherd, or however you want to look at it, would want to see at the end of the day when it's all said and done. We ain't just hanging around just to be hanging around.
Right.
But it's good when you could trust me with something personal, and I'm not going to take that and do anything with it outside of that. And because we built that level of demarcation, that level of comfort, that level of establishing boundaries, it's not weird.
Yes.
Because we talk about demarcation. You're establishing levels and lines and boundaries in regards to ministry. So because we built that relationship, I see when something may be uncomfortable to them because I've spent time and I know I've had opportunity to, you see what I'm saying, on certain levels and things like that. So that in turn, continues to build me as a leader to understand those that I come in contact with. And then in turn, I get a chance to see them grow and for them to share their experience, for them to share their testimony and say, hey man, you know, such, man, you know, I could have went off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But,
yeah, yeah.
you know, man, I didn't, you know, I thought about such. So it's a good thing. They'll say unk, they'll say, you know,
Right, right.
whatever you want to call it. But you know, but even those that you know, that may be a little older, or a little tenured, still at the end of the day, when you've established it, they respect it. So they don't mind sharing with you. They don't mind. See, we share all the time,
All
just
the time.
out of
Yep.
clear blue. And, you know, and you're my senior. But at the end of the day, I respect you greatly,
Mm-hmm.
and you respect me greatly.
Mhm.
So it works when you're talking about establishing those lines, those levels. You see what I mean? So that's what it, you know, from a leader standpoint, just to see, to pour, and then to see the fruit or the
Yeah,
growth
yeah.
or the harvest from
Yes.
those things or those relationships.
That's
Mhm.
good.
I like to. Maybe I should say this, but I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ because it's power unto salvation. When I was in gangs, that I was a great recruiter. I'm not bragging on my past life because the more my thought was, and I think this way even spiritually, the more I have on my side,
Mm-hmm.
not only are we stronger in number, then I become more protected.
Mm-hmm.
They become more protected
Mm-hmm.
because of those demarcation lines. We're not letting anybody in
Mm-hmm.
that's going to do us any harm
Mm-hmm.
or that wants to do us any harm. And so once I get on your side, you get on my side,
Mm-hmm.
then I used to have a friend, his name was Robert. He used to always tell us whenever we was outnumbered in a fight, he would tell us get back to back. That meant couldn't nobody get at his back, and I had to worry about nobody getting that back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when we can stand back to back
Mm-hmm.
with our friends and with our helpers and things like that, because I use that analogy because we are fighting a war. We're fighting a spiritual warfare.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
And so the more I have on my side, the more people I have praying for me,
Mm-hmm.
and the more people that I'm praying for, it makes us stronger as a body.
Yeah.
True.
It makes us stronger as a body. And I may not be able to see or handle everything that might be coming my way,
Mm-hmm.
but then I got somebody else that's praying for me, or somebody that's willing to share his sins.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't say that, don't go there, because that's not going to be good for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's good.
I'm trying to help you.
That's good.
I'm trying to strengthen. So I look at everybody that is with us. I see them as an asset, and I see them as it's more with us. It's like the prophet told the servant, "They that are with us are more than they that are against us."
Yes, sir.
And then he prayed for God to open up his eyes. So
Yes, sir.
that's how I look at it.
Okay. So, this is going to be a two-part here. When you hear these phrases, I want to know what goes to your mind and how you would address that. First one is access is not the same as entitlement. And then history should never replace honor. How would you deal with that if you were working with, especially a younger person, somebody coming in, but then a novice or somebody not experienced in life, period? Uh, Opportunity for a life lesson. And we can talk about that even if you move church out of the picture, just in life in general. Um, wow, all of us are fathers.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us are grandfathers.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us great grandfathers.
Lord help.
But when you're looking at it as just a life lesson, when if you're expressing it to somebody or making it kind of make it make sense to somebody, access does not mean entitlement
Mm-hmm.
or history. Doesn't mean um, history doesn't replace honor. Um, just because we've been friends a long time, and then something happens where one is promoted or shifted. Um, you know, I mentioned this in the last session. Elder Sims told me, because we were friends first, but when I became the pastor, this brother switched on me. And, he told me, he started calling and addressing me every time as pastor. I'm like, man, we don't have to do that. But I understood over time, okay, He said, I'm going to give you the same respect that I've given every other pastor that I've served. So we came up together, and then I was promoted, and I really expected for there to be a bigger shift than there was, because look at it. You look at it from my perspective. I was, for the most part, and in most of the time, the youngest guy in the group. Um, I came from somewhere else, and there were some who were here who had been serving way longer than me, or even preaching more. I'll tell anybody, I have enough sense to know I'm not the best preacher in the world, and there's some folks right here in this congregation that preach circles around me as far as it comes to that. But at the end of the day, I'm the pastor.
Absolutely.
My real area gifting, and I shared this with a mentee just yesterday. It was is administration and organizing, planning, putting stuff together. I'm good at that. I did it for that was my assignment. But then come becoming the number one man, it was like, ooh, how did I deal with this? Because I didn't have to come up with the idea or the vision, the concept. My pastor told me, this is what I want. Make it happen. Got you. Um, Took it back to him. It was his plan. Execution, since I put it together, I can walk those that I'm be working with through how to do it. But when you got to come up with the ideas and then got to figure out how to, that's a different thing. So how, from your experience, and like I said, and I have to be a church thing, but just in life and in general, helping somebody else navigate through. And of course, it would be from your experience, your personal experience.
No, I'm not gonna go first every time.
Yeah. We not gonna go first every time.
Access, entitlement. Some could say, or it could be seen, and like I said, we're not talking specifically church.
Yeah.
It can be seen that they can really be like left shoe and right shoe. Similes. They kind of go together. But technically, just because you have access, I have access when I have keys. I may be in that same relationship, but I have access because I have the keys. But am I entitled to it because I have the keys?
Yeah, just come whenever you want
Come
to,
whenever you want to.
never knock.
Just go, you just willy nilly, as they say. You just kind of just you moving around. So they're definitely two different things. Yes, I'm in this. I'm in this, but because I'm in this, there are still lines, and ways to move because I am in this. See what I'm saying? So when it comes to relationships, oftentimes, especially when we use when the ship goes up in the harbor, quote.
Yeah.
When the tide comes, all the ship goes up in the harbor. We hear that so often. But again, yeah, you're in it, but while at the same time, your entitlement still, because you're in it, it still doesn't grant you. You just have full blown. It's just
Do whatever you want.
Autonomy.
No. It definitely doesn't work like that. So for me, when it comes to, and speaking of just also tying it with boundaries, you kind of have to know when it's all said and done. So that whole access and entitlement piece, it's not the same. On no level. When you separate it from church, whether it's in corporate, no matter where you place it. And we're talking in regards to history and honor. I mean, we could have a grave history, or you could have a history with someone or something, but everything or everyone that has a history of everything, honor's not always displayed.
Yes.
Honor is not always displayed. I have countless church stories,
Yeah.
you know, outside of church, but church stories where because of people's history.
Yeah, yeah,
Come on, come on.
yeah,
Come
yeah.
on. Yeah.
Because of people's history, no matter what, you know, no matter how they have transitioned over the years with their disposition, with a situation, when they get to wherever they feel like you still gonna respect me, or you're still gonna look at me like I'm such and such and such and such. Why? Because we have the history.
We have the history.
Yeah.
But when they have transitioned and they're in a whole other space of mental and everything, it's almost like you've disrespected the history because of how you move, because of your decisions, because of what you're seeing in present day. Yeah, we started here, but over the term and time that we've been on a journey, you've completely changed. So the whole history, and I'm entitled because we have the history. That doesn't always work.
Wow.
And so in regards to relationships, i.e., whether it's pastor, parishioner, however you want to call it, yes, we have history because I've been here, I've been serving, my ins and outs of my family, intimate conversations we've definitely had, or however you want to phrase it, but just the whole entitlement part, or just because we've had that, that's not even healthy, and it's really unrealistic. I belong just because, or because I've been here. You know what I mean? And we have seen that in especially in the church, but in other sectors of our lives too. So all of those things are definitely separate. They're different, and it would behoove us not to get a full understanding of the differences, because we skew lines really easy. I knew you when you was.
Right. Yes. Yes.
I'm a rapper with it. I'm close with this. I get that. I used to get that all the time. I don't mind it. Yeah, you know me. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, you watch me grow up. So it doesn't bother me. But at the same time, there still is a level of respect
It has to come.
that should be established. Since you knew me, I've gone on, by God's grace, all glory be to God. He's allowed me to experience some things, to walk in some doors. So, I'm still that same one because I have not changed from an arrogant standpoint. But it doesn't mean that you can just do and say
Whatever
and
you
be
want.
to me any kind of way. So when you talk about the whole, history, entitlement, the whole honor, please, and what you think and what you feel, I think it goes back to self-reflection
Yes.
and
Yes.
inspection
That's good.
in regards to how you need to look at those, especially when you're approaching leadership and and conversations with those that you serve and those that you look to, that you inspire.
When I was a child, I thought as a child, understood as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. And sometimes people still want to hold you in the place of being a child, and you're a whole grown man.
I would like to jump in and say entitlement, I'm going to say 99.9% of the time, the feeling of entitlement can cause you to lose access.
Ooh, that's good.
Yes, sir. Yes.
That's why you went second, because you wanted to
sir.
destroy anything I was.
Yes, sir.
That's good. That's good.
The feeling of entitlement. When I get to the point
good.
where I
That's
think
good.
I'm
That's
entitled to such and such, whether it's in the church or on the job, but especially on the job, when I think because I've got seniority and because I've been here longer, I should get the promotion. But that can enable you to lose access to those that are giving out promotions. The sense of entitlement, that's something I would warn any child of God or anybody in business to stay away from. Because entitlement would cause you to lose access. Because what's in entitlement? If you unwrap entitlement, you have pride. That's the first thing that comes up as it comes out the box. It's pride. Then I'm so and so and so and so. You know, I hear pastors say all the time, there's two kind of people in the world. Them that's got an education and them whose education has them. And my dad used to always say, you can learn two things from anybody in the world. He said you can either learn what to do or what not to do.
Yes, sir.
So when we have a sense of entitlement, what we're saying is that I have a right to this. I have a right to that. No, sir. No, ma'am. You do not. And I use myself for an example. I have keys to everything in the church except for the finance office. I got keys to the pastor's office. Does that mean, and he got on me one time because I made the mistake of doing it. That don't mean I can come in his office and get his books. I know he got Bibles and stuff in here. And even if I got a preach to teach, just because I got keys, that doesn't entitle me to come in and start going through his books, sitting at his desk. You know, yeah, I'm studying to teach, or I'm studying to preach, or I'm trying to get my thoughts together or something. That doesn't entitle me because I have the keys, because I have access. Doesn't mean I can come here and use his bathroom. So, and if I keep doing that, guess what? He'll take his key back, and rightfully so. So my entitlement will cause me to lose access. What I want to keep is my access. I want to keep that because my access is then built on my relationship. So I want to keep my relationship with all of you. And I'm talking from within the church. I know you can use these principles outside, but I want to keep my access to all of you. I want to keep that solid. I love hanging out with this brother. I love talking to you about music and things like that, and where we're going musically and all of that kind of stuff. I love discussing the Word of God with you because I have that access. I have that one. I have more. I like to say I'm not entitled. I'm not using my entitlement, but I have, because of the access that I have to Pastor. I have more opportunities to engage in deep conversation about Scripture, about the vision of the church that the Lord has given him. I have the essence. But if I go to the point, if I take on an entitlement, and he don't talk to me about before he talk to anybody about anything. And when people come to me, you know, Pastor, what do? Yeah, girl, that's old news. I didn't know that. Now, my entitlement is going to eventually cause me to lose my access, and I'm hurting myself when I lose my access. When I no longer have access to you, I'm damaging myself. Because now I no longer have a friend. I no longer have a colleague in ministry because I've damaged that because of my entitlement. Call me Elder Sims. You go on your job telling folks like that, you ain't gonna have a job at all. And we've all known people that have walked in that. I'm Elder. You can ask, hey, Dwayne, how you doing? I'm Elder Winston the third to you. On the job? Okay. Keep that, and you lose that. Entitlement would definitely make you lose access. And I'm careful. I'm thankful for the access that I do have. I'm thankful for the access that I do have in all of the lives of the people that I come in contact with, and I cherish that.
From what I'm hearing, access is able to. Enticement doesn't mean I have to. Just because I have the ability to do something, it doesn't mean I'm entitled to it. I have, when I was growing up, I had the ability to go in my mom's refrigerator. Wasn't entitled to her Kool-Aid. You know, I wasn't entitled to that. I can go in the refrigerator and get something to drink, not her Kool-Aid. Don't touch that. You said it with the keys. I have the ability, and I'm able to go into the church. I'm not entitled to pastor's office. I'm not, and he would, even that's just I don't even, I wouldn't even want people to think that I think like that. There's some things that entitled. I don't. You don't want people to even think you think like that. Nah. Pastor don't think like that. Oh, Sims and Elder Dog, they don't think like that. Entitlement is a bad thing. Can be a bad thing.
Yes,
Now, when we think of the world, there are things that you are entitled to. Your constitutional rights. I'm entitled to stuff. And unfortunately, when you deal with the world and you deal with policemen, they hate the fact that But when we deal in, and like you said, I am just. But Bishop Vance used to always say, Senior, that we should just be happy just being brothers.
We ought to be happy.
Just being brothers. All that other stuff. I tell people all the time, and it's not that I disrespect the title that's before my name. It's not that. It's just the fact that if I do something wrong, people are going to be entitled to say Elder Lewis did it, as opposed to Mitchell. It was Mitchell. Elder had nothing to do with that. If I did it, Mitchell did that.
Yeah, that was
Mitchell handled
That's
that.
good.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
when we
sir.
sit and we think about entitlement, people, and then it goes to historical. We can have a relationship, but do you honor our relationship? Have I helped you honor our relationship? You said something earlier, and it's really profound. And one of the things about when you're dealing with marriage, if me and my wife get into it, the first thing I do is I look at me. I look at me. How did I contribute to this? Had to be something I did, because she's not crazy. Had to be something I did. So in the historical, yes, we have a relationship, but what can I do if I want honor? And when we talk about honor, we're talking about people that think about, again, how you feel about this relationship. Do you honor? There's a friend some time ago. I realized that our relationship was one-sided, and I was like, and we were talking one day, and I said, it has come to my mind that I think more of this relationship than you do. This relationship is over. He was like, "No, you don't." I said, "Yeah, because how I speak to you, how I deal with you. There are things. If, like I said earlier, if somebody makes a joke about either of you, and I'm standing there laughing, how am I friendly you?
Right.
I don't care how funny it is.
Right.
If somebody's making it, you're my friend. You're my pastor. Why would I sit there
and entertain it?
Yeah, I don't honor our relationship. We have history. I don't honor our relationship. When we start honoring stuff and thinking more of, I got to look at myself. One, how did I contribute? And if it's important to me, I'm gonna make it better. And I would tell the person, listen, there's a problem here. You're not honoring what there. So when you have history, sometimes people, that's a good thing, that honor thing. That's really, I've never even thought of it like that. Someone honoring what you bring to the table, how we deal with you, my time, all that stuff. That's important to me. But I also got to look at it like, how do I affect that? Like, is there something there with me?
I use my brother all the time, because we've been knowing each other for, since I first came to the church. We established a relationship real quick. And when we're in different settings, I know one time I came in and the band was practicing, and and I said, "Hey, Dick Dog," before he even registered in my head, I addressed him, but he understood that I wasn't looking at him as Deacon Dalton. I knew that he was an elder, and see, that's the problem what you were addressing earlier. When we don't see people after they grown. Yeah, I knew you when you was brother Steve. When I first came here, you was playing on the drums and all of that. You had nothing to do with the running of the choir. But I've seen you progress from brother to deacon to minister and then to elder. And so with your progress, I can't talk to you like you brother Steve no more. I have to talk to you like you Elder Dalton now. Like you said, I have to honor where you are. Yeah, I knew you when you was. People always say, "Sam, I knew you when you was." When I went to my brother's wedding last year, and his sister during the reception, she was talking to somebody, and she didn't scream it out. She made it, she said, I've been knowing Chelsea since I was 2 years old. And when she made a statement, I wasn't in the conversation. I just heard her when she said it. So immediately in my mind, I started running back. I said, is that statement true? And I realized, I said, oh my goodness, I have known her since she was 2. And I seen her grow. Now she's married, kids. I can't treat her like I treated her when she was 2, even though I'm older than her. I have to respect her where she is now. And for her to have that same love that she had for me back then, she knows I'm an elder. Now she don't call me Elder Chelsea, but she'll let people know, yeah, he's a preacher now. And I remember when he used to do this, do that, do that. I remember him and my brother going doing this, doing that. So, but now you're at a different level. I have to honor where you are now. I have the history. I should have the joy in the history of knowing you when, and I should celebrate your growth, being a part, however big or small, in that, having in it. I should celebrate you every step that you take.
And even in honor, not to cut you, even with the honor part, do we have to have a conversation with you? If we have history together and you've watched me grow, when we were younger, we used to call each other, doing stupid stuff and stuff like that. 60 years old. Stupid shouldn't come out of your mouth reflective. No. I'm a grown man. No, we don't talk like that to each other. There's honor. Like you said, there's a history, but now there's, like you said with Elder Dalton, he was but you didn't mean it like that. Right. That's just what came into now. You and I've had a conversation. I've never called him by his first name. That's not something that's ever going to slip out of because I've never done that. And it's not, it's respectful because we have history and I honor where he is. I honor where he is. So, that honor thing is, I'm like, wow, I've never even thought that honor thing is very important.
It's very important. It's real. It's real. And it'll really show you who you are. It's like putting a mirror before us. I've made a note to myself here. Honor protects, familiarity destroys. Familiarity, somebody said, familiarity breeds contempt.
Yes.
Be so familiar with people to, it's easy to turn up your nose or disregard what they're saying, dismiss or diminish who they are, what they're saying. But honor, when you can see past the person, even sometimes, even if you have to respect the office, more do you respect the individual.
Yes.
Promotion doesn't come from the east or the west. It's God who puts up, and takes down. And so even in that, because I was just saying this to somebody not that long ago, because I had the challenge of looking at people in church. You see them doing things and operating, and it's undeniable the anointing or the giftedness. You can see, I'm like, God, how is it that and be effective in what they're doing? And looking at their personality and like what I know about them behind the scenes, but and to look at David. David, he did a whole lot of stuff. At the same time, God testified he's the apple of my eye. David knew how to get it right and keep it right with God. And so even those private conversations where he and God, who else knew outside of, what they dealt with? And when he repented, he wasn't repenting to everybody. This is between me and God, against thee and thee only. Have I sinned?
Yes.
And,
I just quoted that scripture the other day.
He knew how to go before God. That didn't take away from his kingship, the authority that he had, the office that he was in. God put him there, and God anointed him for that. And he was able to function in that, even with his human frailties and his inadequacies and all this messing up. He was still the king. And so, and that I think learning how to, even when you can't honor the individual, that person or their personality, honor the office.
Yes.
The position, the assignment. So we're about winding down to the in here. But in closing, I want to ask this question, and like we've done all the way through this, whoever wants to take a stab at it first. What advice would you give someone whose friend has become their leader?
Wow. Uh,
Respect.
yeah, I the first thing that comes to my mind, if you are friends, then even though uh, uh, you and our relationship as being friends first, and then you becoming my leader, that's the first time that has ever happened to me. But I receive joy, and I take great hope in that I was able to look at you as my leader and not just my. I have more respect for you, if I could say this, as my leader than I do as my friend, because your friend a lot of times wants the best for you, no matter what the outcome, and sometimes no matter what you do. You know, some friends will tell you you wrong. You know that ain't the way to go, but they still want the best for you.
Yeah.
You know, uh, but your leader, and I'm talking about as far as a pastor or somebody, your leader, he's responsible for your overall well-being, your mental state, your spiritual state, even concerned about your financial state and all those things. He's carried the same burden, uh, almost as Jesus did, because Jesus gives your leader, gives your pastor a part of that responsibility is passed down to him. Because we know that Jesus himself is the bishop of our souls. So, but he gives part of that. He gives us leaders, under shepherds. He gives us leaders and things like that. And for to me, it was an easy transition because one, I'm looking at this thing spiritually and not naturally. Because a lot of people, and I've had one or two people say, uh, "He gonna be your pastor? You should be his pastor." No, that is not the design. That is not the vision. I was here when and Pastor, I'm not belittling your place. I was here when he first came. Had been here a great while. Was serving bishop at the time. But for him to be elevated to the place that he is now, and that's what sometimes I get in trouble for saying this, but I know I've been in trouble before. That's why it blows my mind now that him as a leader, why it seems it's like a shock to everybody else. If you was been here as long as I've been here, you would have seen the plan all along. It wasn't like this wasn't talked about. It wasn't like this was expected. The same thing I said about myself, by people saying if anybody gonna be at church, I know Sam's gonna be there. It was the same thing said about him. If Bishop needed anybody to do anything, he gonna call Elder. At the time, he was Elder Samuel or Minister Samuel. But so to me, it was a simple transition. This man is my leader. I love being the number 2 man or the number 3 man or the number 4 man. I love having that access. The same access that I had to Bishop Anderson Sr., I have with Pastor Samuel. I love having that access because with that comes privileges, it comes responsibility, but then also you get tidbits that other people don't get. You get nuggets that others don't. That others don't. Not saying that he's holding anything back, but because of our relationship and because I have access, then I'm able to receive stuff. He tell you all the time. I'm gonna say this quick. Every time he has some notes about anything, or anything, I always tell him, I want my own hard copy. I've got, and I don't get them just for the sake of getting them. I get them and I study them, and then I put them up. And then when I'm not preaching or get ready to teach or something, or when I'm studying something, I say, "Oh, he said this. He dealt with this back then." And so I go get those notes, and I'm able to go through it. Funny story. He was up preaching one time, and he would never give me his notes. But the spirit got a hold of him, and he turned around and passed the notes right into my hand. And I got him, and I stuck them in my back. And to this day, I can't find them to this day. But I do have possession of them. I know I didn't throw them away. I do have possession. I just forgot where I put it. I put it somewhere precious, and I have not been able. But when the time comes, I'll find them. And then, but that's a story that he had. But he'll tell you, I'm the first one. I've got to have it hot off the press. When he says, Sims, ooh, this is good to me. Did you send me my copy? I want to be the first to have a copy. He got some little notebooks with his name and stuff on them. Hey, I'm buying one. Just buy me, send me one. And you knew I was going. I tell him all the time. You knew I was going to want one.
Yeah. Some of that sound like entitlement. I would tell them that the fact that you're able to call each other friends is essential. The fact that even before we get to the leadership part, that we are, we're friends.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is because being a friend, I get to know you and intimacy and little intricacies, the little things that, make you who you are. So then when you are now promoted, or when that person's promoted to pastor, I get to know it's real.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what you do, I get to know it's real. No matter how you act. If you like when Jesus threw the tables over, that was real. So if you do something, yeah, he meant that. That was real. He was fed up, So when you're able to deal with someone on that level and then have them promoted, now that loyalty really builds.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're real because I know who you are. I know your character. So when I know someone, like I said, when we were friends, so I know. So now that you're pastor, now my friend's the pastor.
Mm.
So now I know. So now that loyalty thing, I know what you're capable of doing. And even if the evidence points to it, now I don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the young ladies that when Pharaoh told them to go kill a baby,
Mm-hmm.
they were loyal.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they know they'd be loyal, they knew this God was mighty, but they were loyal. And God blessed them. And you don't do it for the blessings. You do it for the cause.
Mm-hmm.
The cause is the most important thing. I want to see this church grow. I want to see this church prosper to where God's plan is in effect.
Yes.
So the only way to do that, one, is to be loyal. And, I would tell them if you care about the organization, if you care about God and what they're doing, then you got to be loyal and you got to respect that person in the position. And there are certain things also as a friend, what we used to do, obviously as friends, we're not going to do no more.
Yeah.
Even if it was, because we're both young, we're immature, we were doing crazy stuff. Even if you say, hey, let's go do this, you're not.
Not with me.
No, you're not. You're not going to find anybody. We're not doing that. So that loyalty and that's a beautiful thing for us to be friends and then to watch you grow. And also, I have to be, again, content with where I am. That was good for him. That's his, that's his thing. That may not be for me. So, I would tell them, if you've gotten a friend that's being elevated, that's in any position.
Mm-hmm.
If I know somebody, they were a detention officer, then they went to a corporal, then they went to a sergeant, they became captains, and we hung out and we did lunch. Hey, wow. And it's not that I can do it, it's just to watch your friend elevate. That may not have been my thing, but watching somebody as your friend and you watch them develop and grow, and now they're your pastor. That's a great thing. That's a great thing.
Yeah, you want to applaud their life.
Definitely.
All right, Professor, you got the last
Man,
word.
it's just simple for me. You want to know the difference. Just like you just said, I was laughing because that was my main comment. As friends, now it's changed. That hey, just plainly put.
Yeah.
I get comments here and there. Well, I know that you all are, you're good friends. I said, but he's my pastor.
Mm-hmm.
So you may not understand it, but I understand the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, you just have to know the difference.
Yes.
You have to know the difference. It's just plainly put. Like I said, the respect is there. The honor is there.
There, yes.
You have to know the difference. At the end of the day, I'm not going to place the pastor in a weird situation.
Mm-hmm.
He's my friend, but still,
Yeah.
because of the honor and the respect, I'm not going to place him, or do anything that's going to put him, in a weird space.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would just tell him, just know the difference. You have to know the
I like
difference.
that. I like
There is a
that.
difference.
I like that.
Wow, that's good. I have friends who, come up through the ranks together. We have no titles at the beginning, and now some of them are bishops and apostles and all that. And I address them like that. With some, it was where they felt weird. I'm like, when you see somebody who's walking in there, who's earned it,
Mm.
it wasn't just slapped on them. We talked about it coming and it happening, and then actually see it play out. Know the difference. I like that. And that's what it's come down to. I see the difference. I know the difference. Um, well, you two, I saw you all coming up to the rank of elder. Elder Sims was already, he was elder before all of us. It's a long time.
Yeah.
But it was easy. But the transition, it was easy, and even using the handle or the title, because I know you earned it. You walked into it, and it was part of your journey and development. So even in that, for me, that's humbling. That's humbling. To be able to see the growth and development.
Yeah, that's
And we're
rewarding.
still together. Under all this, still together.
Yes. Yes.
Well, so this topic has been about assets and liabilities. I appreciate your participation and coming together and agreeing to do this.
Thank you for
But I
having
got
us.
it.
Yes.
When I got the idea, it was actually one of my mentees asked if I would have this conversation, and initially it was just going to be me and Elder Dalton. Then I said, I wonder what it'd be like to make this a group conversation. And I'm so glad I did. Yeah, I'm glad I did. Glad I did. And we've got so much good and positive feedback, and the response has been wonderful. And then to see the dynamics of different relationships and how no two are the same.
Yes.
That's right.
No
Yes.
two are the same. So I appreciate you all. And thank you for joining us here at Beyond the Pulpit with your host, Demetrius K. Samuel Sr. We got my number one. I called him Junior behind the camera here. Let's give him. Thank you.
Amen.
I heard him snickering back there every once in a while, I guess, when we hit topics that but thank you for joining us. And I pray that you stay with me as we walk through this season. Is going to be, well, we're going to be doing more of this. And I'm excited about what's coming up. We'll have some more guests on, and there may be a time or two where it's just me, where the Lord has dropped something in my spirit that I'll share with you. But keep us in your view. Like and subscribe. Share this with somebody that you think will be blessed by this as well. And until next time, uh, what you do in the pulpit is what we do beyond the pulpit. Rather, it's bigger than the mic. It's bigger than the mic. It's bigger than the platform or a stage. There is life. There is ministry. There's work beyond what we do on Sunday morning. Be blessed.